Hey guys, Cam here, and today I'm going to show you how to replace your belt in your CFMoto Z-Force 800 or C-Force 800. The procedure is pretty much the same. Hey guys, I'm going to preface this by telling you to use a CFMoto belt. Don't use a replacement belt, use a CFMoto belt. I know it's 300 bucks, but this is my old Gates belt that I got 500 miles on before this happened. So pay the 300 bucks, do it right the first time. I got about 1,500 miles on my OE belt and it hadn't failed yet. I just replaced it because I thought it'd be good. And then I got 500 miles on my Gates belt. So going back to CFMoto. As you may have noticed, I already have the battery cover off and the CVT cover off. I didn't film any of that because I didn't know if it was the belt for sure. And when I realized how severe my problem was, as you can see by the remaining pieces of belt, I figured I'd film this, tell you guys to use the CFMoto belt, and show you the overall procedure. First thing we're gonna do is remove the primary pulley. That's a 32 millimeter nut. Easiest way is just to use an impact gun. We're gonna be pulling the pulley apart in two parts, the outer and then the inner sheave. So when you pull the outer, make sure to hold this cover. There we go, okay. So under here are all the weights. Mine were all out of place because the belt disintegrated, so then they went everywhere. I'll show you guys how this goes together in a little bit, but don't lose that or any of these little bushings. You'll pull out the spacer. All right, normally you don't have to, but since the belt disintegrated and I want to get all these pieces out, I'm pulling out the inner sheave and it's just riding on the splines. So, main seal of the engine looks pretty good, but I just want to get all this crap out. Next, we're going to use a 36 millimeter socket to remove the secondary pulley. Some guys claim to be able to change the belt without removing the secondary, but I think it's impossible. So let's just remove it. When reassembling, make sure to lube this surface. As you can tell, it was a little rusty and that made it pretty tough to get out. Once you have the nut removed, you should just be able to pull it out. And you'll have to fight some of the wiring. As you can tell, we're gonna hit the wiring right there. So I'm gonna cut some zip ties and that should give us some room. Oh. So yeah, here you can see the mess. But if you look at the sheaves, they're actually in really good shape. So we got pretty lucky. I need to expand the clutch so I can pull this out and then we'll throw it back together. All right, before installing your belt, it'd be a pretty good idea to take some acetone, some sort of parts cleaner, wipe down the inside of your sheaves. Make sure you get all that belt dust off of them. Mine has an abnormal amount. I blew them off already with compressed air. But you saw how my belt looked. Hopefully you get to yours before that. That's what we're trying to get out of there. While you have it apart, you're gonna wanna look, make sure you're pretty straight. I don't know if you can see it. Ours is pretty flat. You're looking for grooves. And this feels pretty good. When you pull your clutch apart and you're holding this together, this isn't gonna happen, but since my belt grenaded, it did happen. And if you find yourself in this position, I'm gonna show you how to put it back together. Make sure you keep all these little bushings. And they really only fit one way, but keep those together. So this is what it should look like. Make sure each of your little weights, you should be able to, they should be able to freely spin, go up and down. Otherwise, you're gonna be getting stuck. And then you'll take the outer part and it just goes together. Now when you're handling it from now on, make sure you're holding it down. Otherwise those same rollers are gonna move out of the way. All right, first thing you wanna do is put the inner sheave in, because otherwise you're not gonna get your belt this around the belt. All right, you'll wanna make sure your arrows at the top are pointing backwards when you're installing it. With your secondary kind of in place and your belt just dangling on there, make sure to put your sleeve in there, otherwise you won't be able to slide it on. Slide the belt. There we go. And you really want to make sure you get that clank. That means you got it in all the way. Next, you'll want to make sure you have greased this surface of your nut. That way, in the future, when you go to take it off, it's not very stuck. And you're going to want to make sure to torque that to 80 foot-pounds. So remember to keep pressure on this part while you install it. And get it to sit on the splines. Once you've brought both the nuts to 80 foot-pounds, we can go ahead and put the cover back on. And I'm just gonna put a little bit of grease in this lip seal. Not really necessary, but make sure it goes on easy, doesn't tear the lip. So there's three things you want to pay attention to: the seal and the bearing, and then there's two different dowel pins. So when you're getting everything lined up, when those three are lined up, you can push it in and you can hear it's hitting a hard stop. Now there's two different size bolts. There's two long ones and a bunch of short ones. What you got to remember is the two long ones go where the dowel pins are. And you'll be able to tell because they don't go in, they won't be sticking out like 2 inches. And make sure to hook up whatever brackets and the ground back up to the appropriate bolts. All right guys, once you get it all buttoned up, you're gonna wanna take it out and take it easy for about 20 miles. And what that'll do is break in the belt, wear it in with the sheaves, and it just gonna make it last a lot longer without overheating. I hope you guys learned something, and I'll see you next time. Thanks.